You were lied to. Judas, the traitor, the coward, the one who sold out the Son of God for silver. What if he wasn't a villain, but the only one who truly understood Jesus? In the 1970s, buried in the sands of Egypt, a forbidden gospel resurfaced, one that the church wanted lost forever, a gospel that rewrites everything. It began not in a grand library or sacred archive, but in a dusty limestone cave in Middle Egypt near El Minya. A local tomb robber, scrabbling for ancient treasures to sell on the black market, stumbled upon a leather-bound codex, brittle, half-rotted, and crumbling with every breath of air. At first, it was thought to be worthless, another Coptic manuscript, a curiosity for dealers. But as it passed from hand to hand, from smugglers to collectors to dusty safety deposit boxes in New York and Geneva, someone finally read it. And what they found inside sent a chill down the spine of every scholar and theologian who dared translate the words. A gospel in the name of Judas Iscariot. Not written against him, but in his defense. The manuscript, known as Codex Chakos, dates back to the 3rd or 4th century. It's written in Coptic, an ancient Egyptian language using Greek letters. Inside the brittle pages, the Gospel of Judas. Its opening line is chillingly calm. The secret account of the revelation that Jesus spoke in conversation with Judas Iscariot. Not Peter, not John, not the apostles the church later honored, but Judas, the man reviled across centuries, was apparently entrusted with Jesus' final teachings. This wasn't just a blasphemous reinterpretation. This was heresy carved into papyrus. And for nearly 1,700 years, it had been buried. To understand why this gospel existed at all, we need to step back into the 2nd century, into a war of ideas. In early Christianity, there wasn't one gospel. There were many, dozens, even hundreds, competing, battling, struggling for legitimacy. One group, called the Gnostics, believed salvation came not through blind faith or obedience, but through secret knowledge, gnosis. They taught that the material world was corrupt, even evil, that the true God was hidden, and that Jesus came not to die for our sins, but to awaken our divine spark and free us from this prison of flesh. The Gospel of Judas is a Gnostic text, and in it, Judas is the hero because he helps Jesus escape this material world, not betray him. The crucifixion, according to this gospel, was not a tragedy, it was liberation. You will exceed all of them, for you will sacrifice the man that clothes me. This line, spoken by Jesus to Judas, is the spine of the gospel. And it's horrifying in its implication. Jesus in this telling laughs at the other disciples, calling them deluded, worshiping a false god. But to Judas, he whispers the truth, that he, Judas, is the only one who understands the real mission. Judas doesn't betray Jesus. He obeys him. He does what no other disciple had the courage to do: free the divine spirit from its earthly shell. This flips everything upside down. It's not the story you heard in Sunday school. It's not the clean, sanitized version from the pulpit. This gospel is dark, mysterious, subversive, and it was meant to be buried. By the 4th century, the early Christian church, now aligned with the Roman Empire, had begun standardizing what truth meant. The Council of Nicaea, the formation of the Bible, the condemnation of heretics. Gospels like this? Dangerous. Judas as a chosen one, Jesus laughing at his crucifixion, that wasn't salvation, as it was spiritual anarchy. So the church banned it, burned it, declared it heresy. Only one Christian story was allowed, the one where obedience to church authority meant salvation, where as was the betrayer. The Gospel of Judas was deleted from history, but not destroyed. After its rediscovery in the 1970s, the Codex was mishandled for decades, stored in a safe deposit box in Long Island, left in a freezer at one point, sold to dealers who had no idea what it contained. By the time it reached scholars in the early 2000s, the document was falling apart. Hundreds of fragments, faded ink, missing pages. But with painstaking restoration, teams from the National Geographic Society and the Maecenas Foundation brought it back to life. In 2006, the world saw its official translation, and the theological earthquake began. Who was Judas, really? If we believe the canonical Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, he was a thief, a liar, a traitor, a man possessed by Satan himself. But even those Gospels differ on his motives. In some, he regrets his actions. In others, he dies in different ways. His story was always blurry, a placeholder for betrayal. But the Gospel of Judas presents something chilling. What if Judas was never evil? What if the church needed a villain to make Jesus' death meaningful? What if the most hated man in Christian history was actually the most loyal? This gospel doesn't just redeem Judas, it condemns the church's narrative control. Throughout the Gospel of Judas, Jesus laughs, not with joy, but with irony, with disdain. He laughs at the apostles' prayers. He laughs at their sacrifices. He mocks the God they worship as a lesser being, a false creator of a false world. To Gnostic readers, this wasn't blasphemy, it was revelation. The real God they believed was beyond form, beyond matter, and Jesus, the divine Logos, came to show the way out. In this view, Judas isn't betraying a man, he's helping a divine being shed its mortal shell. Crucifixion becomes alchemy. Blood becomes the key to transcendence. Modern scholars are divided. Some see the Gospel of Judas as pure Gnostic poetry, a power few, an insight into how early Christians argued about truth. Others see it as a myth layered upon myth, a counter-narrative, yes, but no more true than the canonical Gospels. Elaine Pagels, a leading scholar of early Christianity, calls it a reminder that the story we know is just one version among many, and that perhaps is the most unsettling truth of all. There was never one Christianity, there were many, and only one version survived, the one backed by Rome. So, what do we do with this? Does it change your faith? Does it shake your beliefs? Or does it open your eyes? The Gospel of Judas doesn't demand belief. It invites you to question, to look deeper, to see that the past is not a straight line, but a shattered mirror, with shards hidden in deserts, buried in vaults, and whispered by the dead. Judas was never silent. His gospel was never gone. It was only waiting. History is written by the victors, but truth, the real truth, is written in bones, in scrolls, in voices that will not die. If you want more forgotten truths like this, if you want to see the buried secrets they hoped you'd never find, then stay with us, subscribe, because this is just the beginning.